But I would caution people from jumping from one box that they were stuffed into to putting themselves in a different box, and just maybe grow in comfort and acceptance that there's a lot of room here to be who you're going to be. I think part of what people are looking for, and I could say this bigger, but I'm going to keep it again in the context in which I spend most of my time, which is the context of religious abuse. So people are looking oftentimes for a sense of affirmation that it's okay to be who they are. And again, and I'm not saying that as in like it's okay to be sinful or it's okay to do awful things. It's okay to, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just very basic, like, it's okay to not like to go for walks as a group. It's okay to want to volunteer in this department versus that department. It's okay to want to be successful at work versus volunteering all of my time to the point where I can't even hardly support my family. It's okay, to one example I give for me is I had to put syrup on cream of wheat and I had to put brown sugar on oatmeal. Like literally I'd get yelled at, and it's like, it's okay to switch it up. If you want to put blueberries on your oatmeal instead and not have any brown sugar at all, you can do that. If you want to put whatever on there, you can. And so, I mean, from these simple, more silly things to like bigger stuff of like, gosh, I want to go in this area for my vocation versus that, which is all that, maybe women were allowed to do as an example. And I think that can be part of what people are looking for when they have come out of this kind of background, is they are seeking something to say, it's okay to be me. Now, not like I don't want to keep going in the sanctification process, but like generally speaking, like it's okay. And they haven't heard that. And I think sometimes the personality test is where people maybe turn to seek that. And so I'm curious, what would you say in response? And feel, if you put on your MDiv hat for a minute too, you're welcome to do that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good insight, and I think that's something we struggle with. As to say, like for me, that 1 Corinthians 9 is really important because it talks about, Paul says, "I become all things to all people, so that I might win some." The implication is that people are different, so he has to be different, at least in some ways, to reach them. Or Romans 12 and 1 Corinthians 12 both talk about, different parts of the body. They're different, but they all serve the same body, and it's different roles. Again, the implication that people are different, and it's okay to have different likes and interests and desires and all that. And so, yeah, I would say be okay with that. And the other part is, I guess, don't feel like you have to judge or critique other people for the way they are. You might actually be critiquing them in a way that goes against what God has planned for them, which would be bad. But two, it's not always your place, right? So, I don't go around critiquing people on their personality, because I think they should be a little less extreme in their whatever personality, whether they're too extroverted for my tastes or too introverted or too conscientious and not conscientious enough. There's some people in my life, I have a place to talk to them about those things. I do that when appropriate, not all the time. But the other part is, like, some people have different comfort levels of different things. And so one person might be, so imagine you have two identical twins, so they're same exact personality. And they're both very high on neuroticism. For one, that might be really problematic based on their spouse, their friends, where they're living, maybe what is concerning to them, their religious beliefs or other beliefs. It's really problematic for them to be high on conscientiousness, and so they might want to work to change it because it's creating problems for them. But the other, maybe it's not creating problems, or might even be adaptive because it helps them get their work done or things like that. And so they wouldn't need to try to adjust it. So a lot of that falls on how we want to shape our personality or lean into it. Either way, depends on whether or not it's having or creating problems in our lives, and something we should be considerate of for ourselves and others that we do life with.
Yeah, I think, gosh, I think my summary of this conversation, sort of what I'm walking away with, is to the degree to which the tool we're going to use is as accurate as possible and is actually helpful to us, fine, go for it. But I would caution people from jumping from one box that they were stuffed into to putting themselves in a different box, and just maybe maybe grow in comfort and acceptance that there's a lot of room here to be who you're going to be. And again, Christian worldview, like identity in Christ first. And then we look different, and it's okay for it to be different. It's okay for some things to serve us in some contexts, and maybe in other contexts it wouldn't serve us. I think about that with my son. I'm like, his energy serves him great when he's like trying to play a sport in gym class, when he's like playing it's great. When he's got to sit at the dinner table, he's got to sit at a restaurant with other people, it doesn't serve him as well. So it's like, okay, now I've got to kind of funnel this in a different way, or I got to contain it, or and so we learn these different ways of operating in these different environments and circumstances. And so, yeah, I would want to just caution people of, yes, we have some helpful tools, let them be that, but maybe they sort of get our brain going and get us started. But I would be cautious to let them overly define us, because then I think we're almost doing something similar to what maybe our high control group already did to us. And maybe it's just not that black and white. Maybe there's just a lot of gray, and the gray is good and it's okay. And we can just let it be that and see again where God takes us.
Yeah, that's great. I would just give one more maybe caution. Psychologists use this experimental procedure called the minimal group paradigm, where essentially they'll try to find this, like the minimal kind of importance thing that they can get to unite people together. So it might be that, oh, you were both from the same state when you came to the lab, or you both have the same eye color, or things that are completely arbitrary. You both got heads when you flipped the coin, so we put you on a team. So completely random, arbitrary things. And when they do that, people they'll get people in lab settings to show in-group favoritism, which then by extension leads to discrimination against out-groups. And so I would just say the other thing with the Enneagram is that it's become kind of a socially acceptable way to stereotype people, which can lead to discrimination, whether it's people who like it and people who don't, or people of this type or my type versus people of a different type, or people of this triad. So I would just caution, be very careful about using any tool, thing, personality or otherwise, that stereotypes people and might affect the way that you think about or treat people based on that in or out group kind of identity.
Gosh, yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up. So yes, we don't want to use them to stereotype. And also, I think you mentioned earlier, oh, what was the other thing you said? Now I lost my train of thought. We don't want to use it, as an excuse for poor behavior, essentially.